The deputies were still tightening the cuffs when the candle wax finished sliding down my wife's birthday cake. 10 minutes before that, a pair of pretend security guys had yanked my speaker cable and reached for my grill on my own shoreline, while their boss stood on my grass, shouting through a megaphone about rules that stop at her neighborhood's boundary. And I did the only two things that ever saved me in a messy life. I hit record, and I called the sheriff. I'm Grant Walker, 43. I walked away from federal investigations because I was tired of chasing the same bad decisions in nicer suits. I wanted a lake, some trees, and a kind of quiet that didn't feel lonely. We found Holloway Lake, tucked into the Ozarks, a spring-fed pocket of blue, wrapped mostly by our deed. 70% of the shoreline, the rest touching a brand-new development called Cedar Creek Bluffs, where the houses match and the mailboxes salute. We built our little slice with our hands. My wife Lena planted lilies, and I coaxed a cedar dock into place. Board by board, I put up a gazebo that looks like a postcard. If you stand in the right spot and squint just enough, and I set thin wooden signs at the trailheads that said, what needed saying, private property, invitation only. And for a while, it was good firewood stacked in clean rows. Music-low kids daring each other to jump off the dock, the kind of life you wish you could bottle. Then the letters started certified envelopes, heavy on bold fonts. Light on Truth, the Cedar Creek Bluffs. HOA signed by President Marla Kensington, telling me my dock and gazebo lacked approval, and my shoreline was a community access zone, which was funny in the way a lie with a letterhead is funny. And the next morning, she rang my bell at 6 a.m. with a phone recording posture like a courtroom bench and a smile that said she enjoyed this part, Mr. Walker. You'll need to remove the unapproved structure in 10 days, the gazebo, she added, like I might have a second one hiding behind a tree, and I just pointed at the survey pin shining in the gravel and said, Your authority ends at your pins, ma'am. You're 2 steps past them. Then took a photo of her clipboard and her shoes and the timestamp on my phone. Because when people try to steal with paperwork, you beat them with receipts. I wanted out of fights, but if there was going to be one, I wanted the kind that ends. So when Lena's birthday came around, I played it by the book, 20 friends. A small PA turned down low cornhole near the dock, lanterns strung between the oaks, soft music and softer conversation signs where they need to be, and I thought to myself, this, right here is the memory I'll keep when I'm old. The speaker cut mid-song. The music just died like a bird hitting a window, and before people could blame the battery, a thin voice rode in from the North Trail on a megaphone. Attention residents. This shoreline is a shared access zone, under Cedar Creek regulations. Cease all unauthorized activities. And here they came, Marla in a field jacket. With that megaphone high. Like a parade baton, 2 men in black tactical vests without badges, looking like they order hero gear online at 2 a.m., and 6 lime green vests that said, Protect the Ozark Waters. One kid waving a laminated photo of a dead fish that might have been printed during dial-up. Guard number 1 unplugged my speaker like he was diffusing something by HOA order. He announced to nobody who asked. Guard number 2 reached for my grill. Open flames aren't permitted near community water, and I slid between him and the lid and said, Touch that and you'll be picking stainless out of your teeth. Not loud, just the kind of quiet that travels. And you could feel the mood change. Kids stopped moving. A juice box hit the grass. My buddy Bobby, ex-wrestling coach, built like a fridge that learned cardio, put a palm on the guard's chest. The guy tried a clumsy grab. Bobby pivoted and hip-tossed him onto the turf like it was a demo at county fair. Yeah, that happened. And Marla was still shouting about environmental regulation, while the kids in vests started a chant that didn't rhyme with anything. I tapped my phone, hit record. Hit a sheriff's favorite contact. This is Walker, out on Holloway. We have trespassers interfering with a private event. Possible assault and impersonation of authority. Send a unit dispatch. Said they were already getting calls. So while we waited, I walked to the driveway camera under the oak rewound. The motion clip from earlier, and there she was coaching the scene like a theater director. Disrupt everything. We need a record of public use. Pull the plug. Make them stop. We'll file the easement by August. Timestamp, clear audio, clean uploaded to the cloud, and when the deputies rolled in with the smell of hot brakes. Deputy Ava Morales stepped out calm as a metronome. IDs for your contractors? She asked. They're off duty, licensed to operate on private land. Marla said, that's not what I asked. Morales replied, then looked at me and said, you pressing charges tonight? And I said, not yet. File the report, because part of me wanted to see the whole play. Next morning, knock certified envelope, a civil complaint that read like a blender full of legal nouns, accusing me of misusing a protected resource and threatening officials and violating zoning. And an hour later, a blog hit piece about a disgraced federal agent running some training site, which made Lena go quiet in the way that makes a man want to burn something down. You know what I mean? So I called Nora Quinn, a real estate attorney, who used to wear a uniform and does not scare easy. And she said, we don't play defense. We document, counterclaim, and show our work. She filed trespass and assault and defamation and abuse of process, requested every zoning map Cedar Creek filed. And I sent the raw video to 3 stations. No edits, just the chaos they brought to a birthday. And as it started bouncing around, a podcast, a regional outlet, a TikTok stitch of Bobby's hip toss that I will hear about for years. The messages poured in people from Idaho to Florida with HOA stories that sound made up until it's your mailbox at dawn. And meanwhile, Nora called and said we found a revised jurisdiction map. Quietly submitted 2 months ago. It wraps HOA control around 70% of your shoreline, with no neighbor notices. Sitting in pending approvals like a snake under a tarp, so she asked the court for an injunction and subpoenaed emails between Marla, her lawyer, and the planning office. I didn't sleep much before the hearing walked the trail with my dog, and a flashlight listened to nothing and still heard a megaphone. Then sat in a small wood-paneled room where Press leaned on the back wall and Marla wore navy and pearls, her lawyer whispering in fast billable syllables. And Judge Evelyn Hart put on her glasses like a curtain rising, asked for openings, and Marla sighed through buzzwords like they were confetti. Community interest, historic easement, shared resources. He called me a hostile actor and said militarized about a gazebo which takes talent. And then Nora stood and spoke plain. No evidence of any easement on Mr. Walker's deeded shoreline. Certified surveys recorded deed language, historic maps. A revised jurisdiction filing made without notice, unlicensed private security, a staged protest to fabricate public use, defamation to scare him quiet, and she started setting the documents down like a slow drumbeat survey. 1, 2, 3. Deed paragraphs highlighted, so a sleepy clerk could follow maps with bright lines that say exactly where authority stops. And finally, I tapped my phone, and the courtroom speakers played gravel footsteps, and a voice we all recognized. Disrupt everything. We need a record of public use. Push the easement by August." Judge Hart paused and said, "Ms. Kensington." "This your voice?" The lawyer tried a foundation objection. The judge said, "Sit down," without looking at him. And Marla whispered yes. And the room did that small human stillness people do when something false breaks. Then came the map. The clerk testifying it sat in pending approvals with no adjacent owner signatures, and the subpoenaed emails, where Marla and counsel timed the filing to slide by, unnoticed intentional misrepresentation. The judge said out loud, like she wanted the words on the record and last. The defamation chain tied back to an IP block used by a boutique firm sharing space with Kensington Legal Group, her husband's shop, and we didn't gloat, we just let the math add up. Given the totality of evidence, Judge Hart said unauthorized map, filing misuse of security personnel, orchestrated harassment, attempted defamation. The court finds willful violations of property rights and public trust, and she froze the HOA's actions and remanded Marla pending charges: document forgery, criminal trespass, conspiracy to commit fraud. And the bailiff stepped forward, and the room exhaled. You'd think that's the end, but bullies don't retire. They linger the next day. Letters arrived about emotional distress on behalf of a senior citizen. A white sedan parked across from our driveway and changed plates. Like a bored chameleon. Lena started locking the door at noon, and then the court-appointed auditor cracked the HOA books, and it rained red flags, consulting fees with no receipts, thousands in beautification funneled to a nephew's landscaping company that charged triple to move potted plants, a $2,400 environmental outreach payment to a company that was nothing but a DBA to Marla's niece's P.O. box, which led to a town hall that turned into a small revolution. Folks stood up shaking and told stories about fines for bird feeders and threats over a wheelchair ramp that stuck 7 inches onto HOA grass. The board suspended itself. An interim group promised to cooperate, and the lake got quiet again. We hung a cedar sign at the trailhead. Private property. Respect boundaries and birthdays. People smile at it like a joke they're glad to understand. And I keep the folder labeled Cedar Creek because sometimes the best way to sleep at night is to know where the receipts live. I'll leave you here, but not with fireworks. With a question that still bugs me when the house goes dark. If a board with a badge shaped like a logo can stage a protest. Hire pretend security and nearly redraw a map because they think nobody's looking. What happens in the places where nobody is, where nobody knows to hit record, where a man or a woman without a voice just pays the fine and eats the lie you think HOAs protect neighborhoods or protect power. You think I went too far, or not far enough. Tell me in the comments. Argue with me. Share what you've seen and where the line is in your town. Hit like if you want this to reach the next person who needs it. Subscribe if you want more real stories that end with evidence. And if you're in a fight like this right now, start a folder. Take pictures, hit record. Say it plain. Your name is on the deed, act like it.